Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora,
hey, everyone.
Jonathan Voico,
hello,
and the In-Snyder. Jeff Snyder's here today. Jeff, good to have you, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be back in studio.
And, of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this show today. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. In the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you got a comment or question you'd like us to address, as long as we deem it appropriate to be read on the show, go ahead and use our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Here's the good news, too. If you happen to be watching the show later in the day after we're done live streaming, this tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just send on in a question if you've got one, and we'll address it on the next episode. Also, little housekeeping here, side note. My neighborhood is having a problem with its Spectrum internet. Its upload speeds are kind of garbage. So we are using a Starlink today to try to stream the show. We don't know how good it's going to go. So the show may cut out. Whatever, if it does, don't worry. We're still recording the show and we'll upload it later. But if you notice any problems with the stream today, and they assure me it'll be fixed in the next 24 to 48 hours. But if you see any problems with the stream today, that's why. All right, guys. With that down, let's get things started here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. That Chris Hemsworth, Hulk Hogan biopic that they announced in, wait for it, back in the Blade days of 2019. Remember that? They announced it back in 2019. They said that Chris Hemsworth is going to play Hulk Hogan. The director of Joker was going to direct it. It is now officially dead. It ain't happening. It's gone. CBR wrote the following. They said, Hulk Hogan biopic starring Chris Hemsworth as the titular WWE superstar has been scrapped. The disappointing news is not too surprising since the project has been stuck in development hell for months, I would say years. Filmmaker Todd Phillips confirmed that the Hemsworth-led Hulk Hogan biopic would not be moving forward while promoting his highly anticipated new project, Joker. I love what we were trying to do, but that's not going to come together for me, the director said when he was asked for an update about the film via comic book. So, it happened. You know what's funny about this? It was just a couple of days ago, guys, if you remember, somebody wrote in and asked, hey, what's the status of that Hulk Hogan biopic? and I said, look, sometimes with stuff like this, it's quiet. The movies can be quietly coming together in the background for years, and out of nowhere, a trailer drops. I said, but I have personally not heard anything about any movement on this movie in years. So I said, my guess is that it's dead. And apparently it is dead. And you know what? It might be for the best. Who was going to go see a Hulk Hogan biopic?
We reported this in 2019 when I was looking up the records on...
I think there'd be interest in it, actually.
You think there would be some there?
Yeah, although, with the Affleck and Damon project, I think that presented a complication, right? So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are doing this movie about older Hulk Hogan and the sex tape scandal.
The Gawker
and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I wonder if, that project came in and basically killed this one's momentum. If it had any, like you said, John, I hadn't heard anything in years about it.
Yeah, it just so flew under the radar. Now, it was always interesting at first. When they first announced it, it's like Todd Phillips doing it, Chris Hemsworth as Hulk Hogan, and Hemsworth said he was going to bulk up even more to do it. I mean, I think there's some interest there. Hogan, of course, has gotten himself in a lot of trouble in recent years through, racist outrants or whatever. But listen, maybe you're right, Jeff, because there are a lot of people like me that literally grew up being told to eat my vitamins, say my prayers, and I always have the Junkyard Dog's back. I can't remember, but it was growing up watching Hulk Hogan. So I don't know, maybe there would have been something there for some people.
I remember writing a short story as a kid based on Suburban Commando. Remember that movie?
Really?
I loved Hulk's weird movies. No Holds Barred.
No Holds Barred was so dope.
It's interesting. I'm reading this IGN article about it though, right? And I guess Hulk Hogan had said that the Todd Phillips project or whatever that was going on at Netflix, it fell apart. And he says, my life rights and stuff are somewhere else now. Hopefully Todd Phillips and Chris Hemsworth still want to play. So that makes me think, like, is this Hulk Hogan biopic alive somewhere else? Because wouldn't he have just said, Ben Affleck's going to play me or Gus Van Sant's going to direct it? Like, if Chris Hemsworth and Todd Phillips are still in play, could the rights have just moved somewhere else?
Maybe, but I don't know that the rights here, like, for instance, this Gawker project, I think it's going to be a very different kind of project,
right, totally
probably
different.
even
Totally
in tone than the Hogan project would have been. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. The question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Apparently the Chris Hemsworth Hulk Hogan biopic is now dead. Maybe it could reemerge sometime else. Would you be interested in seeing it? Do you think it would actually make money? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? If you're thinking about going to see The Crow this weekend, and you started looking around to find some reviews, and you're like, my internet must be busted because I can't find any reviews. You're not alone. You know why? There are no reviews out there, even though the movie comes out today.
It has nothing to do with Spectrum.
Has not even Spectrum's fault. Right now, you can't see my screen, but I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes page right now for The Crow. Not a review to be seen. The movie literally opens in a couple of theaters in a few hours. It's today.
Keep him guessing.
They made the decision to not lift the review embargo until tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have said for years, and many others have as well, that folks, when a movie studio holds a review embargo to the day before the movie comes out, that is a giant red flag that the studio has absolutely no faith in the movie. And my philosophy has always been, if you got no faith in your movie, why should I? It's not often that it happens, but it happens from time to time. You know what happens really rarely? Like, I can maybe only remember 2 or 3 times in my life this happening. The review embargo literally not lifting until after the movie has literally opened in a number of theaters across the country. I can really honestly think of only 1 or 2 times. This is so rare. Now, look, I am one of the rare people who've been out there kind of standing up for this Crow movie.
It's true.
Like, I don't give us 2 squats of piss about what the old Crow movie was. On its own merits, I thought the trailers to this looked fairly decent. I've been interested in seeing it. I didn't know if the movie would be horrible. I didn't know if the movie would be good. But I've at least said, you know what? I think the trailers are interesting. I'm curious to go see that. Screw that.
Bye-bye.
To me, by doing this, what the studio is breaking a social contract. And by the way, this is Lionsgate, who we are also going to talk about again a little bit later in this show. And full disclosure, I used to work for Lionsgate. I received cash money from Lionsgate. I got a paycheck from Lionsgate. Remember back when they launched their streaming service, Comic-Con HQ? And I was the host of the first show they ever did called Movie HQ. Me and Mark Hamill were the first 2 shows on the network. And I liked working for Lionsgate. I did. I had a good time working there. But this is breaking what I believe to be a social contract between studios and movie fans. When you are now literally trying to sucker people into seeing your movie and you're going to hide movie reviews from people, to me, this is a giant red flag. Like, how often do I say this on the show, guys? Never. I think this might be the first time I've ever said this. I highly encourage people not to go see The Crow. Teach Lionsgate a lesson here. This is unacceptable. This is completely unacceptable that they're conducting themselves like this. Not letting reviews come out until after the actual show times for the movie launching in theaters. It's unacceptable. It's Bush League. It's bullshit. And I expect much better from a studio I really like. I like Lionsgate. I have no qualms saying that out loud. I have a special place in my heart for Lionsgate. I think they're great. And if this was some studio that I had no respect for, it wouldn't bother me as much. But this is horrible. I highly encourage people, do not go to see The Crow. Jeff.
I agree with you, John, that there is a social contract of sorts in place, right? But I think that the problem here, it's one thing to expect the studio. I don't expect the studio to do much. I expect the press. Well, this is an agreement. That's what an embargo is.
Yeah.
And it's, the press, like, why are you agreeing to respect this embargo? It's because if you don't, you're not going to either be invited to the next one or you wouldn't be allowed to see this movie.
Well, it's part of the agreement, right? We will allow you to come see our movie early.
Right.
If you agree not to release the review until X time.
The press needs to realize that it has some leverage in this situation and it should push back a little, right? Like, I mean, because the studio needs reviews. So if critics are like, listen, if that's the way you want to play it with this, then we're just not going to review Lionsgate movies going forward. I don't think that's what the studio wants. Or maybe it is. Maybe that's the whole point. It's like, we wish we could just release these movies in a vacuum and there were no reviews.
You know what Lionsgate's going to say? Fine, we'll make up our own critic reviews. Oh, wait, no, that's for a later story.
You're jumping ahead, John.
I'm getting ahead of ourselves. That's for a show, a story later in the show. Okay,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Wait until you hear what Pauline Kael thought of this, the Crow reboot, guys.
Yeah, anyway, and look, I'm disappointed, not just because I'm a fan of Lionsgate, but I'm disappointed because I was kind of looking forward to seeing this movie, and now I am not. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They are literally not lifting the review embargo until it is open to the public. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, guys, whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Chick-fil-A
Ooh, I'm hungry.
Yeah. Oof. Delicious.
is going to deliver you a chicken sandwich
Yes.
and a streaming service.
Ooh.
I had to do a double take on this when a buddy of mine texted this to me. But it is true. Chick-fil-A, this is both in Deadline, The Verge, it's all over the place. Chick-fil-A is reportedly getting ready to launch a streaming service this year. This is not sometime down in the future. This is not sometime, maybe we're thinking about this. Apparently it's going to be happening this year. Now, The Verge wrote this. Deadline reports that Chick-fil-A is working with a number of production companies and traditional studios to create multiple original shows for a streaming platform debuting sometime later this year. Initially, the restaurant is said to be focused on family-friendly, unscripted programming. All I can think about is game shows, but including a game show produced by Glassman Media and Sugar 23. But, they say, down the line, the currently unnamed service could also feature original scripted series, animation, and content that it either licensed or acquired from other entertainment outfits. All right. If you are like me, your first reaction comes in somewhere in the neighborhood of, what? Chick-fil-A doing a streaming service. Okay. But the more I thought about it, it's actually, to me, not that crazy. Now, on the one hand, it is because it's a fast food restaurant. What do they know about the entertainment industry? Side note, they've got some side businesses that have dabbled in the entertainment industry, but that's a side note. The second reason why it seems kind of crazy to me is because in that initial flood of everybody rushing into the streaming stage, we are now seeing people pulling out of the streaming game. We're seeing mergers happen. We're seeing smaller streamers dying off and being shut down, all that kind of stuff. It seems like a weird time to launch one. Jeff, to me, the reason why I've got over my initial, this is crazy kind of thing is that if they wanted to be a streaming service that focused on family-friendly content, then, you know what? So many of the great inventors have always said, listen, you want to strike it big, find a need and fill it. Find a need and fill it. And is there a niche out there for a streaming service that's completely just dedicated to family-friendly content? They could find themselves an avenue. I mean, they could find a lane. Whether or not there's going to be a bunch of people signing up for $9.99 a month, I don't know. Maybe you'll get 3 free chicken sandwiches a month with a subscription. And there's the advertising aspect of this too, right? What if they use this streaming service really is nothing more than a big marketing campaign for the restaurant? I mean, a lot of different approaches to this, I suppose. What was your first reaction when you saw this?
I was surprised, but also, the more I thought about it, the more brands are getting into producing their own content and entertainment, right? Whether that's the big fashion brands or I think Lyft and Airbnb were mentioned in the actual story. With Chick-fil-A, I mean, just think I go through the drive-through maybe once every couple weeks. Imagine if they handed me a coupon. Hey, here's 3 free months for our streaming service, just like Apple TV does when you buy an iPhone. So it's almost using the restaurant as the promotion for the streaming service, right? Now, I follow this account on Instagram, Atlanta Filming. So I'll break a little news here. Or according to this account, the first show is a reality show called The Pastors, right? About it's probably going to be about these pastors and these mega churches and stuff like that. I think it's a great idea. I mean, Chick-fil-A is sort of a southern chain, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, religion's really big in the South and everything. I think it's super smart. And the cost is low to break in, right? It's $400,000 per half hour for the budget. Whereas I think Andor, according to this Atlanta Filming, $550,000 for 1 minute. $550,000 per minute of Andor, where this is $400,000 for a whole episode.
Worth it. Worth every minute.
Yeah, worth every damn minute is Andor. But I mean, again, if there's a need and you can fill it, fill it. I don't know, guys. What do you think about this?
Chick-fil-A.
I've been struggling this whole time to come up with puns, and it's harder than you'd think. I'm working on it.
Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
Flix-fil-A. There you go.
I like that.
Ray just came up with the name of the service.
I
Flix-fil-A.
hope they're listening.
Whatever you guys think.
Okay.
Are you going to subscribe to this? I'm not, but
No.
I think there might be a bunch of people who will. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about a couple things, including Ryan Reynolds still seems to be trying to get Wesley Snipes another Blade movie. Also, Megalopolis. I keep wanting putting a P in there. Megalopolis.
You got Megalopolis.
Megalopolis. I'm thinking of Thunder Lips.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan. We were talking about him earlier. Yeah, remember that trailer put out the other day? Filled with lies. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. Ryan Reynolds continues to really advocate for getting Wesley Snipes one more Blade movie. Now, of course, in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is now officially the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, crossing the $1.1 billion mark. I think it's closing in on 1.2. But hey, massive success, good for them. Hugh Jackman returning. But in theaters across America, one of the biggest pops in the movie is when that slow rolling music starts to play and around the corner walks Wesley Snipes' Blade. Everybody got excited. And of course, one of the best jokes in the movie is there's only one blade. There's only ever going to be one blade. And then the smash cut to Deadpool just looking at the camera, kind of like knowingly, of course, there's another one coming. So they say. Well, Ryan has talked before about he would love to see him back, but Ryan just put up another post on his social media with a behind the scenes picture of him and Wesley together, in which he writes this. He said, the reaction when real Wesley Snipes enters the movie is the most intense thing I've heard in a theater. People screaming with uninhibited joy and love is also the sound of a legacy. More Blade, please. Hashtag Daywalker, a Logan-style send-off specifically.
Starring Deadpool.
Starring, of course, Deadpool. Right. All right. I'm going to say something really unpopular.
Uh-oh.
And you've heard me say it before, and it was unpopular when I said it before, and I'll say it again. Because sometimes the unpopular thing needs to be said, because it's often lonely being right. But when I saw Deadpool and Wolverine for the first time, number one, I loved Wesley Snipes' appearance. You can't even call it a cameo. It was a role in the film. It's much bigger than a cameo. But I really enjoyed Wesley Snipes being in there. But the second thing I walked out of that with, besides the first thing being that I really enjoyed that, was, oh yeah, it's very clear his time as Blade is done. Like, that's just the impression I had. It's like, it was one thing to see him do a couple of really cool scenes and say a couple of really cool lines. But honestly, I think if you did a Wesley Snipes Blade movie, a 64, because he's 62 now. So you'd probably, if you got one up and going, you'd probably have a 64, 65-year-old Blade.
Well, that's going to be Mahershala Ali by the time they...
Yeah, then he's getting into Mahershala Ali range. Yeah. I honestly don't think that is a movie that many people would actually go out to see. I think they do need to move on. It's time. If they ever do. I'm at the point that I don't believe this Mahershala Ali one is ever even going to happen. I mean, I wouldn't put money on it not happening, but if you ask me to be real honest, like a come to Jesus moment, I'd be like, yeah, I probably don't actually believe the Mahershala Ali one's going to happen.
You got to stream Chick-fil-A for that.
Now listen, the movie may happen. I just doubt that Mahershala Ali is going to be part of it at this point. But aside from that, if you are committed to moving forward with a new Blade in your universe, why on earth would you do a Wesley Snipes Blade? I mean, like, the fact of the matter is too, it's way past its time. If Wesley Snipes was like 54 years old right now, I might be a little bit more inclined to go maybe, but I just, again, loved him in Deadpool, but I also think it made the point that he should now be done. This was his goodbye, and this was his legacy. This was it, and I'm so glad he got it, but I honestly think that's the end of it. Jeff, there's a lot of people, you probably heard it too in your theaters, when Blade comes walking around that corner, people got hyped. Should Marvel be maybe looking at a Logan-style another standalone film for him?
No, I'm with you on this. That was the send-off. You know, and it's weird because I've seen the internet take what I said on my podcast last week and twist it, where I said, yeah, it does feel like there is more momentum behind a Wesley Snipes Blade movie than a Mahershala Ali movie at this point. It doesn't. You know, I haven't heard anything about the Mahershala Ali project. And I think you're 100% right
when you say that.
Right, whereas Ryan Reynolds is out here beating the drum for we need more Blade. So yeah. I do think that there is more momentum behind a Wesley return, but at the same time, it was a bad idea. That is not how you take Blade into the MCU. Like, that was the Fox corner of it. I know Blade is a New Line movie, but like, that was the goodbye. And I think we need a fresh start. You're right. It's time. Now,
look, there's a couple things I want to point out from some people in the live chat. It's like Victor in the live chat saying, but John, Samuel Jackson did Nick Fury over 70. Nick Fury ain't Blade. And Samuel Jackson has always been the MCU's Nick Fury. The other thing that somebody else brought up is something that I said before. Mark W. in the live chat. I've been saying this for a while. Even though he's not that much older than Mahershala Ali. I think he's, 10 years older than Mahershala Ali? He's not that much older than Mahershala Ali. I think having Wesley Snipes as a whistler, like as Blade's whistler, I think that could be beautifully poetic.
Yes.
Again, maybe he's not old enough to be Whistler for. I don't know, Jeff. What would you think about?
No, I think that's a great idea, right? I mean, it was going to be. I mean, Delroy Lindo, right, was cast in an earlier iteration of Blade.
that's
I don't
right,
know
yeah.
if he was necessarily playing Whistler or whatever, but I think that would be cool to have both of them in it, and basically do like a torch passing movie almost in a way.
And then have Sticky Fingers in there as a Blade variant, and now you're off and running. Ray, I got to ask you though.
No.
I got to ask you this. Okay. You've been more than anybody else in this room. You've been more excited for Blade than anybody else here. If Kevin Feige were to call you and say, okay, here's the thing, Ray, I can either have you wait 4 more years for Mahershala Ali Blade, or I can crank out a Wesley Snipes Blade in less than 2 years. What would you ask him to do?
Well, to probably everyone's surprise, I actually would want to see a Wesley Snipes Blade. I mean,
There you go.
The first Blade is one of my favorite Marvel movies. It got me into it. But if I had to make a choice, I've been wanting to see Mahershala Ali play.
For 5
Blade.
years, we've been waiting for it.
I take a third
But
option.
I do want to see a Wesley Snipes Blade. If there could be a universe where both of them and they don't affect each other, then yes.
Oh yeah,
give me
like
both.
a Elseworlds.
Yeah. If there was something like that, but I know they would affect each other, and that's why I'd rather have.
Look, Robert Pattinson's Batman is completely separate from the DCU.
Ooh.
What do you think that third option
now.
is? Jonathan, you said you had a third option.
Yeah, well, it was a joke, but now it's going to run flat. My third option was going to be a podcast of Kevin Feige and Ray just talking.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
I'd take that. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Ryan Reynolds is still beating the drum, man. He still wants to get Wesley Snipes that Blade movie. I think it is a door that is long since shut. But I don't know. Maybe it could still be possible. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Yeah, remember how that Megalopolis?
Yeah.
I'm still saying it the wrong way.
I say we just say
Megalopolis.
it wrong the whole time.
You know what? Megalopolis. That's what it's called now. Might as well. They're faking everything else on it.
Damn.
So remember that trailer?
Megaflopolis.
Megaflopolis that they put out yesterday?
Yeah.
And it started with what I thought was a very confusing strategy. They started it with saying, genius is often misunderstood. And they flashed all these negative reviews. And remember during the show yesterday, I said, well, are you trying to make it sound like everybody hated Godfather when it came out?
Right.
I'm sure not everybody loved it, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe The Godfather won Best Picture of the Year at the Academy Awards that year.
I remember it being critically acclaimed.
Yeah, it
had a few
seemed
fans.
to be beloved.
It pretty much saved Paramount too.
Well,
So
the reason that seemed odd is because it was all lies. Some people picked up on it and said, wait a minute, that Roger Ebert quote, that sounds familiar, but I don't think it was for that movie.
it's like AI at Ebert.
And wait a minute, that negative Godfather quote, didn't that film critic love The Godfather? Turns out they were right. Lionsgate straight up lied.
Lies.
They even said,
did they?
we screwed up. Lionsgate, as a result, they pulled the trailer offline. Lionsgate is immediately recalling our trailer for Megalopolis. I keep wanting to put that extra P in there, man. A spokesperson for the company said in a statement provided to IndieWire, we offer our sincere apologies to the critics involved, to Francis Ford Coppola and American Zoetrope for this inexcusable error in our vetting process. We screwed up. We are sorry. And it goes on to write in IndieWire, for instance, Roger Ebert was said to have described Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula as a triumph of style over substance. But the quote actually appears in Ebert's review of 1989's Batman, directed by Tim Burton, while Ebert was among the positive voices about Dracula. As for Kale, describing The Godfather, she allegedly called the film in the trailer diminished by its artiness, despite her being one of the biggest champions of the film and its sequel. John Simon, Stanley Kaufman, Vincent Canby, Owen Gleiberman, and Rex Reed were also among other critics quoted in the trailer that appear to be inaccurate or faked. All right. Let me get the obvious out of the way. This is clearly unacceptable. This is clearly unacceptable. First of all, even before we found out that all the quotes were fake, I thought it was a very strange strategy for trying to promote the film.
Yep.
A very, very odd strategy.
Does it make more sense now that you know that it's fake?
Yes, because I honestly,
Yes.
when it came out, I told John yesterday, I'm like, oh, I think I clicked on like a mock trailer. I don't think this is it, because it sounded, first off, it sounded like it was a throwback to like 70s.
Well,
In
with
this
Lawrence
film, you will
Fishburne,
see
Lawrence
this.
Fishburne was doing the narration.
Yeah,
of
so
it.
I thought it was fake, and then I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, these people should never get into like political strategy, because you never lead with the things people hate about your
Right.
nominee or whatever. Ooh.
But let me ask you this. If they just released a trailer yesterday, here's the official Megalopolis trailer, and here's a quote from David Ehrlich on IndieWire and a quote from Owen in Variety, right? Are we talking about it today? Are we talking about it on the show today?
No.
Oh, you're
we
right.
Absolutely
would
not.
have talked about it yesterday.
But I think that the point was like it was as crappy as it is to stick words in the mouths of dead critics and Owen Gleiberman, who's still with us, thankfully, right? I mean, that would be terrible if I was watching a trailer and it said Jeff Snyder says this, and I didn't say that. That's messed up. But as a strategy, they got 3 stories out of it yesterday. It's here's the initial trailer. Wait, are these quotes fake? Now it's here's the retraction, and so it was an all-day news cycle for Megalopolis.
But that is some negative attention.
But see, that's the thing that I was leading up to, was the old adage is like all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
It's been proven that that's not true. Ask Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Not all publicity is good publicity. I mean, if I want to increase awareness of, the John Campea Show, I mean, I could, if I ran into Helen Mirren, drop trow and shit on her feet. That'll probably get people talking. I'll probably make the news. Not probably going to do a lot to increase the popularity of the John Campea Show.
You'd be
And
surprised.
I honestly don't think this conversation is going to do anything to get people interested in Megalopolis.
No.
I think if you tell someone, hey, Lionsgate just pulled the trailer, what do you think the first thing that person does is? They go online,
find
look
it.
for the trailer.
Find the trailer.
Don't you think? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of genius.
In which case, they're going to find a boring, yawn-filled trailer. Again, so I just don't see. Now, if the goal was to just simply raise awareness, you could score points there. If the goal is to raise interest, I don't know that they moved the needle on this. If anything, I fear they may have moved the needle backwards.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's almost like, to Jeff's point, there's more interest in the trailer now, but not the movie. To your point, John.
Right. And that's the unfortunate part too. Even once you got past the fake critic reviews, the trailer wasn't all that good. It had some very interesting visuals, but it reminded me, I want to know what you think about this, Jeff. I said this on the show yesterday, but I'd be curious to know your perspective. I said it reminds me a little bit like the marketing campaign for Blade Runner 2049, a movie that I think was brilliant. Like, I love Blade Runner 2049, but the trailers were so terrible. They were all abstract and never gave the audience any sense of what the movie was about. And it's almost like the studio felt this entitlement that, hey, this is Blade Runner. You should just be thanking us for the opportunity to come to the theaters. And when I watched that trailer yesterday, I again walked away with the kind of the same sense. It was very abstract. It didn't give me any really idea of what's going on in this, and why would I want to see this? I don't know. How did you feel about it?
People who saw the movie in Cannes don't know how to describe the movie.
And they saw the whole movie.
Right? And so the idea, I think it's that this movie deals with a lot of heady, weighty ideas. And how do you, get those ideas across in 2.5 minutes? And how do you get across in 90 seconds?
Yeah.
Because you spent
Yeah.
the first 60 seconds on a bunch of fake quotes.
Right.
When the French are going, you got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? Of course, I'm sure a lot of people thought about this too. I made a video editorial about this a while ago. Remember a bunch of years ago, Sony created a fake movie critic
Yes.
and started putting like these
No way.
critic. Oh yeah. I did an
Wow.
entire editorial on it. It's up on the channel. If you guys want to look for it, look for Sony fake movie
I
critic.
only saw A Knight's Tale because of that quote. I was
And
on
that
the
was
fence,
one-
and then that got...
That was one of the things that they did the quote on with
Yep.
the fake movie critic. And Again, I just got to say this. I feel terrible. I really like Lionsgate. I know people at Lionsgate. I worked for Lionsgate. This is 2 stories today that I'm like, for shame, Lionsgate. Like, don't do this
Let
stuff.
me ask you this. Did you notice a story last week about Lionsgate bringing on help to market this movie?
I
you
did
see that?
not.
They brought on Utopia Distribution to help market.
Now that you yes, I did hear about that.
Pretty interesting that this happened 5 days after that was announced, I think.
I wonder if that had
that was
something-
Utopia's strategy. I don't know.
I want to read Lionsgate's quote again from this, because now that you mentioned that, I want to read Lionsgate's comment again. It says, "We apologize to the critics involved, Francis Ford Coppola and American Zoetrope, for this inexcusable error in our vetting process." Was that Lionsgate saying
This wasn't us.
we'd made a mistake working with these people? I don't know, or maybe it was all part of the plan.
It is.
Anyway, guys,
Schemers.
schemers.
Never know.
Question is for you. What do you think about this? Fake lies everywhere. But I don't know if it was a big plan and it was a big strategy. Do you think the strategy is going to equal more people going to see this movie? Maybe it will. I don't think it will, but you never know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Hungryroot. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Hungryroot. Guys, you know me, I like things that make my life easier, especially things that make it easier for me to eat healthy and eat well, and certainly more effectively than trying to order from food delivery services. Hungryroot is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't even have to think about it. Hungryroot gets to know your personal health goals, dietary restrictions, favorite foods, how much time you want to spend cooking, and more. Then, they build you a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week, including easy 4-ingredient recipes to put those groceries to use. Each order is fully customizable so you can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat and seafood, healthy snacks, smoothies, sweets, ready-to-eat meals, kids snacks and meals, vitamins and supplements, and much more. Everything from Hungryroot follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Right now, Hungryroot is offering the John Campea Show listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/Campea to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/Campea. Don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you. Kidding. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm learning from my friends at Lionsgate. Apparently we're muted.
No, we're on.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, because everybody in the live chat is saying it's muted. Are we 100% sure?
We're on.
Okay. Anyway, so with all that stuff down, guys, let's now move on to the important stuff here, which is taking your live comments or questions. So, Jonathan, what we got up first?
First up, Anonymous with a $20 tip.
Thank you, man.
As one of the only few fans of Battlefield Earth.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, they're saying it was, but now it's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. As one of the few fans of Battlefield Earth who actually saw it in theaters.
Wow.
How does Battlefield Earth compare to Borderlands? Also, what's a movie that you have enjoyed that most critics have not, or that bombed at the box office?
Well, Battlefield Earth, you guys know I have the unholy trinity, right? I have something called the unholy trinity, which is the 3 worst ever large-scale, wide-released Hollywood films in history. And those are, in no particular order, Highlander 2, Catwoman, and Battlefield Earth. Borderlands is an all-time. Borderlands is the Godfather compared to Battlefield Earth. I've told this story before. Let me tell it again. I still remember the first time a bunch of us. I was working at a visual effects company at the time, and we all went to go see Battlefield Earth because we were so excited for the big visual effects extravaganza. And we're in this movie theater, opening first screening of it, almost full theater in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And you know, when a movie ends, the screen goes black, the credits start to roll, and people start to shuffle, they get up, they grab their coats, whatever. Everybody was so stunned by how truly awful the movie was. When the credits started to roll, there had to be a good, and I'm not kidding, 10 to 15 seconds where nobody moved and nobody made a sound. And after about 10 to 15 seconds, as the credits were rolling, a voice, like out in the wilderness, from the front of the theater, yelled out, "What the hell was that?" And the whole theater erupted in laughter. It is a truly horrible movie. But we all have movies that everybody else hates that we like. And I'm not talking about the so bad they're good. I'm talking about a movie I legitimately really love that a lot of people hate. Armageddon. I love Armageddon. And I understand why a lot of people don't like it. Totally cool. And now I'm not talking about Cool as Ice with Vanilla Ice. That's a so bad it's good.
Right, yeah,
that's a
good.
so horrible it's fun to watch.
Right.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a movie I legitimately love. Jeff, you got one that you like almost everybody else dislikes, but that really has a special place for you?
I mean, I'm going to go there. It's Crash. It is the best picture winner, Crash. Critics hated Crash.
I loved Crash. I thought Crash was
I know.
great.
I love it unabashedly, and people think that I'm crazy and that Crash is like the worst best picture winner ever. I completely disagree.
I wasn't huge on Crash, so I understand that.
I enjoyed it a lot. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Optimist Prime says
Optimus Prime.
Yeah, says loving Black Myth Wukong on PS5 so far. Plus, watch the opening cinematic ASAP of the Monkey King's son Wukong fighting giant golems. Yeah, this is a really cool video game.
I've never even heard of it.
Your character is kind of like a mutation of like a human and a monkey, and it takes place. I don't remember if it's China. It might be.
I mean, it sounds cool. Again, I've never heard of it.
The gameplay looks awesome. I mean, I'm not going to get it right away because I just don't pay $60 for games. I wait till like Black Friday sales and stuff like that.
Right.
But it looks amazing, and I'm told the cinematics and the story are really cool. So,
all right, what's next?
Scroll down here. Okay, Cody Hunt Film says just saw Sing Sing. It followed its followers. Oh wait, a theater program in max security prison. Okay, man, this film moved me. It's filled to the brim with positive masculinity. There aren't many times you get to see other black men be this vulnerable and creative on the big screen.
Didn't you just say you just saw this film?
No. So I just signed up for a free ticket. You can actually go online and get a free ticket to Sing via A24.
Yeah.
You can see it at like participating AMC theaters. And it's like the top of my list as far as movies I've missed this year. So I'm definitely going to check it out.
All right, what's next?
Cool. Anonymous says, hello, once more, Moo Crew. I just had to write it again. Did you notice that when watching a movie like Cuckoo or Longlegs, the Smile trailer has a sick crunch in the opening scene, but not in a showing of It Ends With Us? Thanks, guys. Interesting. So a little more graphic trailer before different movies.
I didn't understand the question at all. What was the question?
I guess in the trailer for Smile 2,
right,
there's like a realistic kind of crunching death sound. But that sound is not in it if you go see something like It Ends With Us.
Oh.
But if you go see like another horror movie, it's a little more graphic.
Interesting.
I got to tell you, I want to be interested in this movie. I can't it's Smile 2. I can't seem to muster it quite yet because I really like, what's the name of the girl in the lead from Power Rangers?
Naomi Scott.
Naomi Scott, who was marvelous in Aladdin. Loved her in Aladdin. I really like her. I was not as taken with the first Smile as most people were. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. I liked it, but it had an amazing guerrilla marketing campaign. Absolutely, like putting people at Major League Baseball games behind the plate. Crazy good stuff. But I don't know. You know what? You have to forgive me. Sometimes I started confusing the trailers of Trap and Smile 2 a little bit.
with the concert.
But I don't. What did you think of Smile? Are you looking forward to Smile too?
I
Paul?
liked Smile. I'm looking forward to Smile too. I think it. I liked some of the casting. I like that guy Lucas Gage from White
Yeah.
Lotus.
Yep.
But yeah, Parker Finn is a promising talent. So I'm gonna check that out this October.
All right. What's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says you'd reference Richard Harris as Dumbledore. It saddens me a bit that a true legend of the stage is mostly known today from Potter. I'm a huge fan of his 67 Camelot, and then looked up in IMDb for his best films to realize he never had one. He led.
It doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. Like Richard Harris was one of those guys where he didn't need to be in a lead role, and he did have leads. He did have leads. Don't get that wrong, but he didn't need to be in a lead role to be like a dominant presence on the screen, like absolutely dominant presence on the screen. When I think of Richard Harris, I don't think my mind does go to Harry Potter, sure, because he was great as Dumbledore. Gambon was great as Dumbledore after him as well. When I think of Richard Harris, I think of English Bob in Unforgiven.
Oh, man. Yeah.
He as English Bob, playing off Gene Hackman. If you want to see something that even Scorsese would call cinema, look up on YouTube of just Richard Harris and Gene Hackman playing off each other in Unforgiven. It's some of the greatest stuff. And by the way, Richard Harris's son, Jared Harris, has all his potential. All his potential too. When I throw the name Richard Harris at you, Jeff, what's the first movie that maybe comes to mind for you?
Gladiator. Yeah, he was good. He was good in that one.
All right.
But I haven't seen a lot of the older stuff, so I'll admit it.
Has the king give an old man another blanket? I love that line. All right, what's next?
Not to say he wasn't awesome. Twice nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, but few would remember the films. Always great as a supporting actor in films, to include The Unforgiven, and has both an Olivier Award for British Stage, Emmy, and a Grammy. Well, I mean,
He was one of the all-time greats.
that's going to happen as you age. That would happen to like Peter O'Toole. That was like modern audiences are going to just look at what they're in now because they didn't.
Sure, that's stuff.
I mean,
see.
look at oh my God, why am I like Obi-Wan Kenobi? Why can't I think of his name?
Alec Guinness.
Guinness. I mean, Alec Guinness. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, the Bridge over River Kwai. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. Look what
I love River Kwai. I love that movie. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety's back. What of his do you all like best? Well, we answered that.
Yeah, we already answered that one.
Your name says, is Lionsgate or the trailer company to blame for Megalopolis trailer showcasing fake reviews from real critics regarding Coppola's former movies?
Look, depends on what you believe.
Yeah.
If you believe this was all a coordinated effort amongst all of them, then they're all to blame. If it was as long as Lucasfilm, as long as Lionsgate is not lying again, saying, hey, we made a drastic mistake in not vetting properly, which also could be a massive lie. But if they're telling the truth, then more of the blame lies with the trailer company. But it's still your trailer, Lionsgate. Lionsgate. What, did you just watch it, just assume they must be telling the truth? I don't know. Maybe Lionsgate got had. I don't know, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Lionsgate is ultimately to blame, right? They're the ones who sign off on everything. So if they didn't have like an intern could have fact checked that in 5 minutes, like where are these quotes from?
All right, what's next?
Beeper Yell says, here's the problem I have with the Marvels. In the background, the graffiti on the walls moved and changed with her emotions and mood. I'm guessing he means Miss Marvel. But they dropped that stylistic approach like a hot potato halfway through, like they just forgot have some consistency.
It also represented the evolution that she was having as a character as well, right? There were moments like those artistic flares were always a part of scenes that had a certain tone and feel that did not fit in other places. So I thought it was used completely appropriate. I don't think they ever should have just run that. While I loved it, I don't think they should have just run that through the whole series.
Yeah.
So that was me.
And then Beeper Yell just follows up. I meant Miss Marvel. No, you're not an idiot. Don't say that about yourself. But I did like the style with which was cool and fresh for a Marvel show. I just wish they kept it up.
like I said, I don't think you can just do that and then run it through the whole series.
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved about Ms. Marvel so much, besides the warmth and the preciousness of it, and it was just a beautiful show. I just loved it. It always made me smile. Every time I watched a show, I smiled, and my heart smiled. But it reminded me so much of those 80s teen comedies, those 80s coming of age kind of movies that I watched a lot growing up as a kid. And it reminded me a lot of that. So that's why it worked for me. All right, what's next?
Justin says, John, agree RDJ Doom has potential, but all I hear seems to equal evil Tony. Tony has potential. What is making Doom a version of Tony add to Doom instead of assuming Doom in the evil Tony character? How does Doom as Tony add to the character elements of Doom?
First of all, you'll never know until you see the movie.
Right. We don't even know if that
we have no idea. And by the way, nobody's saying that Dr. Doom is just going to be an evil version of Tony. Like, I've been very specific about how I've worded this on purpose. The dramatic influx of what happens when the face of the guy who was, in Captain America's words, Earth's greatest defender, is now the same face of the man who is the Earth's greatest threat. Not that it's just an evil. It's not like, this isn't Star Trek, or it's not going to be the mirror universe where, oh, that's the evil Spock because he has a mustache or a goatee, right? It's not like that. I think, and who's to say that Doom is a variant of Tony? What if Tony's a variant of Doom? Or what if they're both just variants of something else? Look, all I'm saying is, and the reason why I have a lot of optimism for this choice is because the narrative paths are almost countless now that are in front of them. There's so many different directions that they could go. And if executed well, and it's being done by the team who gave us Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, if it's executed well, and there's no reason to believe that it won't, it could be amazing. Now, could it be a disaster? Absolutely. How is it going to do this? Well, we can't answer those questions until we see the movie, until we see what it is they're trying to put together. But I would say this. I think it's a bad business to be in to bet against this team. I just think it's a bad business to be in the business of betting against this team. And I'll say this again. In 2026, when this movie comes out, we are going to be seeing a lot. I'm going to be sitting back with my popcorn bucket and sitting back and watching all these people, so many people today, rewrite history and say, oh, I always knew this was a good idea. I always knew. Just like they did when Heath Ledger was Joker. None of you thought it was a good idea. Just like they did when Ben Affleck became Batman. Just like they did when Robert Pattinson became Batman. You're going to see all these people who are so vocally insistent that this is the worst thing in the world. 2026 comes, I guarantee you're going to see history being rewritten. Jeff, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. announced to come back, obviously, with the Russo brothers coming back to huge splash. I mean, we obviously don't know how good or bad the movie's going to end up being yet, but as far as a calculated move, a good move, an interesting move, a bad move, how did you see it?
I thought it was a freaking genius move, right? If you could get him back, you absolutely have to. And I don't think he was ever interested in coming back to play Tony Stark again. Like, what's interesting about that? You got to give him another note to play. So, to me, as far as the casting of Doom, Robert Downey's a great actor. How is he the greatest actor? No, I think there are a few better ones, but like you probably weren't going to get him. So you have a great actor in the part. Do you have is there an actor who means more to this audience? No,
that's true.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's a total win. I don't understand the whole Tony Doom variant, multiple universes, alternate universes, all that stuff. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I can just say what I was told, which is that he would be a variant.
All right. What's next?
KW Garrett says, wow, Megalopolis trailer pulled due to fake critic reviews. I'm willing to bet that some intern on that marketing team used AI to find critic quotes and didn't realize AI makes stuff up all the time. Whoever runs that marketing campaign is so fired.
No, I don't believe that's what happened at all. That's just a fifth grader could have seen through that. This is just thought they tried to pull a fast one. I think they were trying to create an atmosphere. They created their own alternative facts. Now, how closely, to Jeff's point, how closely Lionsgate was in the loop on that as this partner company was putting this trailer together or weren't, maybe we'll find out later. But I don't think it was like, oops, we thought no, that didn't happen.
I mean,
not at all.
you don't get fired for botching a campaign like this, right? Because this isn't Lionsgate didn't pay for this movie. Coppola paid for it himself. But if the heads could roll, because look at the marketing campaigns for The Crow and Borderlands, which opened way, below what even the lowest expectations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
100%. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says, I feel that under Chapek, the production philosophy was to create films like a death match to see what survives versus making sound decisions in the planning process and only spend time and money on the best ones and build a long-term Star Wars MCU universe.
Remember, there's no mystery to it anymore. A producer from Marvel went on record with Variety and said the mandate was, under Bob Chapek, make as much as you can as fast as you can. That was the mandate. Just crank out as much glut of content as you can, as quickly as you can, and get it out to our distribution streams. That was it. I mean, a Marvel executive has confirmed that for us, and that led to a lot of bad decisions. All right, what's next?
Dr. Doom, this should be interesting, says, greetings and salutations. What if Avengers Doomsday starts off with the end of Endgame of Tony Stark banging metal, but it's an alternate Tony Stark and it shows how he becomes Dr. Doom? What do you think about using that sound for starting off Doomsday?
It doesn't create as interesting of a story for me. Like, I've said this before, and again, I'm going to wait to see what they want to do with it, and then I'll judge it on its own merits. In advance, my thought is it's more interesting to go much further back than that, because I've heard a lot of people say, well, what happens if when he's in that cave with Yin Sing, and he makes the Iron Man armor, but it's actually Doom armor. Instead of taking away the lessons that my weapons are used to hurt people, he comes out of that cave with the lesson of peace through strength, and whatever. Yeah, you can do that. But to me, at least for now, it's more interesting if you go further back and have it where Tony's great-great-grandparents never immigrated to America from Europe, from a little country in Europe called Latveria. Instead, they stayed and kept their actual family name, Von Doom. And, to me, that's more interesting. By the way, there's also some comic stories about Victor and Tony, like being college roommates, and Victor Von Doom created a machine that swapped their brains and all that. There's all that kinds of stuff too. But again, I'm not going to go into this with an expectation. They better do it this way. I'm just going to be curious to see how they do it. And then we'll evaluate it from there. All right, what's next?
Marcella says, Hundreds of Beavers is my favorite movie of the year. Rent it on Amazon, please. Funniest movie since The Holy Grail. Wow. 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sadly, it won't get a wide release and not many people will see it. Please sing its praises. Theaters don't have much in August. But if you can rent it, they're not going to be showing it.
I've never even heard of it. Has anybody in this room heard of this?
I feel like I've heard of that title. But
What's
I don't.
the title again?
Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting title. You've heard of this?
Yeah, it's a super low budget, like black and white, like kind of slapstick comedy. A ton of like creativity went into it. I think that guy is going to end up getting a job. Like, he showed what he can do. He accomplished a lot with a little.
All right. And we've seen that happen before. Remember what was it? What was the name of the little horror movie that then got turned? It was a YouTube short and then got turned. Lights Out?
Lights Out.
Oh, Lights Out. Yeah,
Lights Out. Yeah. So we've seen that happen before. So, all right. What's next?
Aaron says, hi, John and crew. Just a friendly reminder that Interview with the Vampire has officially landed on Netflix, one of the best shows on TV right now. So I hope you give it a go this weekend.
Well, I will not be giving it a go this weekend because I'm going to Vegas this weekend.
Whoa, Vegas, baby.
As a matter of fact, as soon as today's show is done, Ann and I are jumping in the Tesla and driving down to Vegas, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Going to go meet up some friends of ours down there. So I'm not going to be watching it this weekend. But I know Ann has been very excited to watch this show. And I did mention to her today, because many of you guys have told me, that it's now on Netflix. So she's queued it up. All right, what's next?
Okay, Dildar, the Glorious says, May, I will kill all Jedi. May again, I will turn myself in and help the Jedi. May again, LOL, never mind. I'm back to wanting to kill all the Jedi. And that's when the show lost me. The action was great, though.
Listen, I hate the prequels, but I'll always defend the Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Darth Maul fight. I'll always defend the pod race scene. I'll always defend Master Yoda's fights, but I hate the prequels. I hated The Acolyte, but I'll give it its flower. The action was great. The fight choreography in The Acolyte was nothing short of wonderful. Now that wasn't enough to save the show for me, but yeah, listen, always give it its credit. I did think the action scenes were quite good. Actually, Jeff, I never got a chance to ask you, did you bother to watch The Acolyte? You didn't even bother. You saved yourself
I'm not a
some time,
Star
my
Wars
friend.
guy. I don't watch any of these shows.
Oh,
I
trust me,
did.
you don't have to be a Star Wars guy to watch Acolyte.
No.
At all.
I watched a few episodes of Mandalorian. I actually thought it was okay, but I haven't done any of these other shows.
Yeah, you're not missing out on anything with that. All right, what's next?
All right. Here comes the cheer section. Matan says, the fake bad reviews ad for Megalopolis remind me a bit of X was also hated when it was new. That AI and Crypto Bros says. Matt Damon saying the fortune favors the brave, and Larry David FTX ad, you name it. They were going for that kind of thing, like people hated this and then it was great. You know.
Here's what gets me though. That's one of the biggest fallacies ever. Like when people will bring up an example of a 1 in 1,000 thing that happened once.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Yep.
people didn't like this. Yeah, but that was like 1 in 1,000, right? that kind of proves the point. And it always drives me crazy when people do that. It's like, okay, yes, mathematically that has happened before, but it's a very bad argument to use because pulling out the 1% just makes the other argument better. Because yeah, that 1%, but 99% of the time it doesn't go that way. So it's a total fallacy argument, but people do it all the time, dude. All right, what's next?
Zach says, hey, John and crew, do you think Doomsday will be Rocket and his new team's next appearance on screen? Rocket's my top 3 favorite characters in the MCU, or could we get a Guardians 4 in between Doomsday and Secret Wars?
We're not going to get a Guardians 4.
Yeah, I think that was the send-off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great.
Now, do I think we could see that iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy pop up in other things, i.e. Doomsday or Secret Wars? Yeah, I could totally see that happening. I don't see any reason why not, but I just don't think you're going to get a Guardians 4. We will see, because don't forget, Guardians 3 ended with Star-Lord will return.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see Chris Pratt again, but I don't think, no, we're not going to get a Guardians 4. All right, what's next?
Okay, Give Doom an entrance says, have Doom murder old man Steve Rogers, who decided to come visit when he heard something about Tony being back.
I like that. It's not bad.
Could work.
But it doesn't do anything to rate. Here's why I don't think it works. Because there's 2 different sets of stakes. Threat stakes and emotional stakes. Neither one of those boxes gets checked by killing off old man Steve Rogers. Number 1, because the whole world thinks old man Steve Rogers is gone and dead anyway. And number 2, old man Steve Rogers isn't a physical threat, so Doom taking him out doesn't. Because remember, it's not like Thanos beating up the Hulk at the beginning of Infinity War, because that made a statement.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make a physical threat statement? He's got to fight somebody like a Captain Marvel, or don't do the Hulk again because you've already done that, but a Captain Marvel, a Thor, something like that. If you want to do an emotional stakes, well, this is why everybody gets mad at me. Have him kill Tony's daughter. Have him kill, love you 3000. You want emotional stakes? You want tears in the theaters? You want people crying out for the blood of Doom? That's what you do. Not a 92-year-old Captain America who gave his shield away. I don't know. It's just kind of
No, it's a good as good a direction as any.
yeah. So we'll see what they do. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, why did Disney even have that D23 panel for Acolyte if they were canceling it? Also, the news broke on Manny Jacinto's birthday. What the hell? Not saying it was intentional, but he's been so passionate about the show, and to get that news is terrible. Those things happen.
I'm sure he knew about it before the news broke,
Yeah,
too.
I'm sure he knew about it. And by the way, there were probably 1,000 people that worked on that show. That literally meant any day they picked to make the announcement, it would have been at least 3 of their birthdays.
It could be intentional though. They could should we announce this on Manny's birthday? Should we cancel the show on Manny's birthday?
We really hate Manny.
Yeah.
Right. Well, fuck those Filipinos. I don't know. I don't think there's anything to that. And I don't remember there being a D23 panel. Was there a D23 panel for
I don't know, maybe.
whatever? Who gives a shit about D23? All right. What's next?
All right. Anonymous says, I hate that I have to say this, but fellow Acolyte fans, if you got a way to save the episodes of the show, you better do it now, just in case Disney pulls another anti-art move like they did with Willow and basically erase it from existence.
Well, remember, here's the thing, though. It's not an anti-art move. It's a business decision. Because if they leave Willow up on the streaming service, it costs them money every day they have it up there. They have to pay out residuals. They have to pay out, licensing fees. They have to pay out all this stuff. Even though it's their own service, they still have people that got to get paid for every day that thing is up and online and available. And to them, it's like, this was a bad show. Didn't work for us. We're not going to get any benefit from it. It makes more business sense for us to pull it down. It's not anti-art. It's just that, listen, if you had 1 square foot of your front lawn and they said, we want to put this, community sign here, but it's going to cost you $20 a day. Are you anti-community if you take that sign down? No, it's just costing you $20 a day. That's all I'm saying here. But I think you're right. I think Acolyte is something you better find a way to get on your hard drive if you did enjoy the show. And I know there are people who enjoyed it. You might want to do that, because I would not be surprised at all, Jeff, if this Acolyte series is one that at some point they decide, we just need to take this thing down and get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. That's what they did with Willow, right?
It's 100% what they did with Willow. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Will says, I've got a question about inflation. Just kidding. I watched an interview with Zack Snyder answering filmmaking questions, and I'm so on board with what you said about him recently in terms of craft vision, etc. He's so interesting. Just stop writing.
I think Zack Snyder is an incredibly gifted visual storyteller. I really do. I think he's so creative in the ways he thinks about visuals. Now, sometimes that translates into movies I adore and love. Man of Steel, Rise of the Guardians, The Owls of Gaul, 300, right? Sometimes it translates out to Sucker Punch or Rebel Moon, or things like that. But yeah, I think if he can find a great creative writing partner, I think we could see a whole new chapter for Zack Snyder. Maybe, but that's my guess. All right, what's next?
Oh, we got Sheiky Baby says,
Cheeky baby.
Jonathan missed a message on Wednesday's show, a completely innocent impression of the Iron Sheik, referencing a certain lady in the medias in recent months and totally copied from a wrestling board. John and Chris would have recognized references, but we'll never know.
No idea what any of that means. All right, what's next?
Ryan, the movie guy, says, it was my 23rd birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
I have to mention that my favorite film of all time is Blade Runner 2049. From the moment the eye opens and the music swells, I was taken to another world. I'd love to know, what are your thoughts on Blade Runner 2049?
I love it. And I say, remember somebody asked a little bit earlier, what's a movie everybody hates that you like? The opposite question, what's a movie everybody loves that you don't like?
Mm-hmm.
Is the original Blade Runner for me. I've never liked the original Blade Runner. I acknowledge it's an all-time classic. It's a super important movie in the history of sci-fi, all that kind of, and I acknowledge that everybody else loves it. But I just have to be honest, it's never worked for me. So I was shocked when I saw Blade Runner 2049 and loved it. Loved Blade Runner 2049. Jeff, did you ever
Hated
watch
it.
the original? You didn't like the original Blade Runner?
2049?
No, I hated 2049.
Oh, you didn't like Blade Runner 2049?
No, yeah. And I didn't. I wasn't like a huge Blade Runner guy, but I respect Blade Runner and its place.
I can say that.
Yeah.
Yep, I can agree with you on that. I don't like the film, but I respect it. I respect it a great deal. All right, what's next?
Ryan, the movie guy, with a two-parter, says, after Romulus, the next alien project to look forward to is the FX series Alien Earth. I'm not personally sold on that, but if I'm remembering right, it was pitched as, what if the Xenomorphs was on our planet? Cool concept, but I hear the show takes place before both Prometheus and Alien, or wait, where'd it go? And Covenant. And those films show the origin of the Xeno, which then makes no sense. Well, those movies didn't make any sense for that reason. Which then makes no sense for the Xeno to be in the show. Unless the show has no alien, but why call it Alien? I'm just confused about it, and what are your thoughts and theories?
No reason to be confused or even to give thoughts on something that we don't know anything about yet. Look, they did put out a teaser trailer. I don't know if you guys saw that the other day. They dropped a little teaser for it where it was the Xenomorph going, yeah. And as the camera panned down, you saw the reflection of Earth on its head. So it is going to be on Earth. It is going to be xenomorphs.
Yeah, it takes place 20 years before the first Alien, they said. From what I read yesterday, it's about Weyland Yutani forming and then trying to like perfect their cyborgs. So I don't know where the alien then comes into that.
Oh, they're synthetics?
Yeah, they're synthetics.
All
It's
right.
more about the company, the corporation.
Yeah, listen, I have my doubts about it, but I had my doubts about Prey. I had my
knows?
doubts about Alien Romulus, and I ended up loving both of
I
those.
don't doubt Noah Hawley after Fargo. He's
Yeah.
5 for 5 now on that show, I think. So
Was he not also the guy behind Legion?
yeah,
Yeah.
was
And
it.
you know what? He was going to do a Doctor Doom movie.
That's
He was
right,
going to
yeah.
do a Doctor
Yeah.
Doom movie for Fox before Marvel bought Fox. Would have been interesting. All right. What's next?
The Tick with the two-parter too. While we'll disagree on DC's animated movies, as for me, there's more good than bad than you think, but I'll concede there's a distinct lack of quality control, for want of a better term, with them. Hence, lower budgets but small profitability. So what prevents WB from taking the scripts from scrap projects like Superman Lives or Batgirl and make a direct-to-streaming animated versions instead for some revenue? Or having been scrapped, is it they can't contractually do it? Thanks, bring on the filthy.
Well, you'd have to sign a completely separate agreement with whoever holds the rights to the script to be able to do it. But look, just because I'm going to let you know a little secret. It's not hard to come up with a script. It can be hard to come up with a good script.
Yeah.
But Jeff will back me up on this. You walk into any coffee shop in this town, there's 40 screenwriters hammering out their next Oscar-winning thing. It's not hard to come up with a script.
I was amazed as a reader when I worked in development, like what would have an agency cover on it. I mean, it'd be like, how did this person even get representation?
Yeah. So if they had this script, believe me, getting scripts is not their issue. Getting good scripts is the issue. And if they already decided that script wasn't so good and they scrapped a movie plan, I don't see why they then sink millions of dollars into
then
developing
making
an
it
animated
animated.
thing out of it. Like,
And if it's going
just go
direct-
get a better script.
And if it's going to direct streaming, they're not really making revenue because that's not going to pull new subscribers. So
The DC, I mean, Gunn has a larger plan for the DCU that includes live action and animation where the actors are the same. So
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Bastel to the two-part. A lot of two-parters today. Hey, John and crew. In the 2x26 so I guess season 2, episode 26 of Avengers Assemble, the Avengers fight an OP Thanos and arrive on Earth to find that it's missing. It is revealed that Ant-Man shrinks the planet by spreading Pym particles, which prevents Thanos from killing everyone. Based on it, what if the undisclosed casting of Paul Walter Hauser or John Malkovich is actually Fantastic Four's world's equivalent of a Hank Pym, who, to prevent Earth from getting devoured by Galactus, shrinks it, but it displaced them into 616 orbit, causing incursions.
Nah.
That's
Zero.
very scienccy, man.
Yeah. Zero chance. They're not getting Paul Walter Hauser or to play Hank Pym, and I don't think they're getting John Malkovich to do it either. So no, I don't think they're going to take their storyline from season 2, episode 26 of Avengers Assemble. Because then essentially you're making it an Ant-Man movie, and I really don't think they're going to do that. Now, on this alternate world that clearly Fantastic Four is taking place in, I do think we're going to see some other versions of other heroes as well. But which ones could be around in the 60s? The thing that goes to your point here is that Hank Pym could have been around in the 60s. That's true. Maybe a Howard Stark. I don't know. We'll see. But I really don't think that's the direction they're going to go with it. But hey, remember this moment. Mark this episode and the timestamp and come back once Fantastic Four comes out if that's exactly what they do, and you remind me of this so we can give you your flowers on that.
There you go.
All right, what's next?
Coolio Ray Curley says, how long before a movie's release date will it typically finish with its production? Cat still had some unfinished shots when it was released showing Judi Dench's human hand with her wedding ring on, or like Borderlands where it was shelved for years. So what's the
there
average?
is none. There is none. See, some people think that, and this does happen, but people think that, you shoot a movie and then when it's done, you put it out. Like I've had all these people saying, wait a minute, they just finished shooting the movie, but the release date isn't for another year. What are the chances they release it much earlier? No.
Right.
And there's often very little relationship between when the release date is to when they finish production. Unfortunately, today, they'll set a release date before they even start shooting a movie. That happens quite often. but every movie is different. Some movies, like what was the movie that just came out that had literally been sitting on the shelf for like 3 or 4 years?
Well, Borderlands.
Oh, Borderlands. Like, yeah, Borderlands literally finished shooting over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not about when it's done. I don't know, Jeff, how would you answer that question?
Take me back to the original question again, because I had something in mind. What was it?
Oh, so just movies release date typically.
With something like Judi Dench, right, and that thing, that's probably something that they do notice before release, and they're like, well, it's going to cost us 30 grand or whatever, 40 grand for a VFX guy to go in there and paint it out. Why are we throwing, if at a certain point they know the movie's going to be a loser, they're going to stop throwing, money to fix little problems, basically.
All right, what's next?
Got KJ, excuse me, just came back from seeing The Crow. I thought it was pretty good. A little slow in a few places, but overall great.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Was it pretty good or was it great?
Well, he says it was pretty good, and
then said it was great.
KJ, are you the head of marketing for Lionsgate?
Yeah.
Is this KJ Lionsgate? And where did you see it?
Yeah.
Why
didn't you take me, KJ?
Yeah, yeah, no, I have no plans on seeing it. But I don't know. Maybe we'll be surprised and find out that it's good. I doubt it, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when the review embargo does drop, if there are
at 7 p.m. tonight.
Okay, they're not going to be, because why would you hold off on releasing
on good reviews, right?
So they're not going to be.
What's next?
Oh, that was it. That was our last.
All right, guys, and that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
Jeff Snyder. Jeff, where can people follow you?
Thanks for having me, guys, and subscribe to my newsletter at theinsnyder.com.
And most importantly, thank you to you guys for being here. And a big special thank you to Starlink for making today's live stream possible. It looks like it held up.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, don't forget, join the show again tomorrow. I won't be here. But good news, Ray, Jonathan, and Chris Carr will be here. So come back and join that crew for tomorrow's show. I'll be off in Vegas. I'll probably do an open mic or two from Vegas while I'm out there. That'll do it for us, guys. My name's John